Hey, Nick, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jason. How are you?
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. Tell us who you are, what you do.
So I'm Nick Francis. I'm the Chief Visionary Officer of the Franchise Group, basically a creative director. And we're an agency that's been around since 2006. We're a strategic marketing and creative agency. And what that basically means is, we sort of all wear marketing hats and lead with the marketing umbrella to try to be smart and intentional about the work we do. And then really all of the work that feeds that umbrella is video production, full service, all in-house, by the way. Video production, web design and development, marketing, graphic design, so creative, digital and print, and events, so conferences. We do a lot of conference production, set design, that sort of brings all of our services together there as well.
Very cool. Accidental agency owner, how'd you guys start?
So started had a really great mentor, was in the film industry for a little while out of grad school and fell into the ad agency world. And then from there, I wound up at a company that was video production and event production. And over that time, while I was there, I was doing a lot of the creative development. I was writing scripts, concepting. They were really small, maybe 5 or 6 person team. And then sometimes I was pitching the idea and I was doing everything except the budgeting. Well, in that network of people that I was interacting with and events I was traveling to, I started meeting others in that space and just naturally, gift to gab, I guess you could say, started finding other people that needed similar services and would bring clients in. And on the third one, I want to say it was, the owner of the business was like, "You've been doing this all except the budget. Here's a budget. Here's sort of how I think about this. I think you should go." He was kind enough to kind of scoot me out the door and said, "You should go do this on your own." And so I still work with him actually to this day. His agency still exists. We support each other periodically throughout the year. So that was it. 2006, I spun up with my first logo and first big client. And it was a $30,000 job. And that helped me survive for like 5 months at the time, lean and mean, and kind of spiraled from there and haven't looked back.
I interviewed someone last week that worked for an agency, and the owner said the same thing. "You should go and you should take these clients." And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And just to hear you say it too, I'm like, especially if we've been doing the podcast for 10 years. I've never heard of this. And I told him that. And so when you just told me that, I was like, what?
I just secretly talked to him right before the show.
Yeah, I think so. I think you definitely have been tapping my podcast feed. So
yeah, honestly, I'll say like he's all business, but he was kind enough to do that and sort of show me the ropes. And I mean, I still consider him a mentor. I've learned a lot from him over the years and what to do, what not to do, sort of a threshold to stay at, saying no more, all of those things. It been really great relationship.
Yeah. How did you, I want to talk about finding your sweet spot because, the agency world, and especially when I was doing the first agency, I felt like unless you were growing all the time and unless you had tons of employees, like I remember going to industry events and awards and I'd always be like, these are so stupid. And people would judge you based on your employee count, your full-time employee count, or the brands that you have and all the superficial shit. And a lot of times too, as I'm chatting with our mastermind members and they're, we're planning for the next quarter or planning for the year, or they're thinking of the huge exit that everyone thinks they want, I ask them why. And then I'm like, dude, you don't have to grow every year. If you're happy with the profit and what you're doing, fantastic. Keep that. I interviewed Seth Godin a couple of years back, and he was, if I can remember it right, I was asking him, what agency do you admire? He was like, I worked with this one agency and they just wanted 50 clients and that's all they wanted. They found that as their sweet spot. So how did you find your sweet spot? What kind of bloodiness did you get through going through the wall to find your sweet spot?
18 years in an agency, that's a long time and a lot of finding. So definitely a lot of blood through that. 2 years in, we hit the housing market crash in 2008. And that didn't really catch up with us until 2009. But when it did, we saw an opportunity in that a lot of marketing teams were downsizing and turning over the work and creative to, executive assistants, chiefs of staff, things of that nature. So we were able to pick up some of the slack there and be an extension of your team. We still say that today. We don't like to look at our clients as like we're the vendor and we're the outside partner. Like we're a partner. We get invested, learn about what makes you tick, and like what is your brand message, what is the tone, and what is the drum beat and all that stuff, and try to really get invested that way. That's why we keep a client roster of like 20 active clients at a time. But when we started, we were like this because we did hit that market crash, and we were like, oh shit, we're here in this thing now. What are we going to do if we don't make it? So we went like this. We started out web design, graphic design. I was doing a lot of branding, logos, that sort of thing. And then I had a film and motion graphics background in grad school. So I started to incorporate some of the video production into it. And so that added another, piece to the puzzle. And then over the years, it was like, we kept doing that. And then we added marketing and strategy and data and analytics and SEO and all of that in like the mid-teens of the 2000s. And then we swelled and we got up to, 15 employees in 2017, 2018. But then we started to really think intentionally, like, who are these people? We're starting to get in front of some bigger clients. In 2017, we closed a deal with Yamaha Music and Hitachi. So we were starting to think, well, these bigger logos, they pay more. The contracts last longer and there's less headache. Sure, there's all the corporate stuff that you have to get through. But it was sort of like half the time it was us thinking strategically about like, well, who do we want to be? And the other time it was sort of some of our clients just leading us naturally in that direction based on what they were looking for. And then it wasn't until COVID really that we really we brought on a new business advisor that we meet with quarterly. And we really got intentional about like, well, here's the stuff we're good at. Here's the stuff the team's good at. And here's what we like to do. And you talked a little bit about like, is the goal to swell? I want to be at 50. I want to sell, whatever it is. I'm really happy still where I am. The goal, I don't necessarily have a long-term goal because I keep moving it based on the fact that I love being here and what we're doing. I mean, it sounds cliche, but I mean, the true goal overall is quality of life for our employees and for us. Between COVID, I went through cancer in 2021. And so that brought some different perspective to the business as well. And it's really important. And everyone that works here feels the same way. Like the quality of life that you have professionally and the fulfilling aspect of our work is just as important as what we do outside of work. And so that's really sort of led to where we are now. And our core services now are still very similar to where they were when we began, but we're definitely more defined in like what our lanes are, I would say.
What do you say to the people that think if you're not growing, you're going backwards, or if you're not growing, your employees will see stagnation and they'll want to go somewhere that's growing?
It's all about the leadership in some regards, but also like it's just as important to see like what's the turnover. I'm always trying to do better as a business owner and as a thought leader. So I'm always reading articles and listening to podcasts of, to try to gain some perspective.
Only one podcast.
Only one podcast, 100%. Yes. So, but in doing that, I know the turnover for folks, especially coming out of college, is less than 18 months in a first job. And we don't have a single employee that's been here for 18 months. Everybody's been here at least 3 or 4 years at this point. So, and some 6 or 7 years. And I'd like to take some of that credit in terms of like the quality of work that we're doing and also the quality of life that folks have while they're here. So if those things are important to you, sure, career growth is important, but like if you're continuing to challenge yourself and like, of course, naturally, COVID made everybody innovate in some regard. If you're still here, that's fantastic, but you had to do something to stay here, right? And be relevant. But I think, as long as you're continuing to innovate and challenge your employees to think, outside the box and like, what can we do differently here that we haven't done before? I think naturally everyone will stay inspired and motivated. And then you don't need a 100-person agency or a 200-person agency to do that.
One of the most stressful things about running an agency is proposal. It feels like controlled chaos, right? You rush to get them out the door with complete accuracy, just hoping you don't miss something crucial. One wrong move could lead to costly mistakes or possibly not landing the deal at all. That's why I'm excited about Smart Pricing Table. It's an award-winning proposal software built just for marketing agencies. Now, it's designed to handle your unique challenges and cut down the time you spend on proposal as much as 90%. With Smart Pricing Table, you're going to turn your crazy process into a smooth, predictable system that works for you, not against you. Oh, and by the way, the creator is a former agency owner and a past mastermind member, so you know Smart Pricing Table is built with the right strategies behind it. Say goodbye to the proposal stress and hello to confidence. Go to smartpricingtable.com/smartagency to see if this is the missing piece your agency is looking for. Plus, just for the listeners, schedule a demo and get half off for the first 2 months. Check out smartpricingtable.com/smartagency. What's something that you challenged or came up from challenging your employees to be innovative? Is there anything that you can think back of going, and this really made a difference for us?
I mean, I know I've mentioned COVID a couple of times. It's, sort of a dead horse at this point, but like we were in events, conferences, and so traveling to conferences, doing all the set design, all of the branding, the signage, digital and print, all of the video content, helping with opening acts, choreographing everything, and then managing the whole event on site. And then thinking about the post-event marketing strategy. Those are all things that we bring to the table. That all went away, right? So we saw that we went on March 13th, 2020, we went all remote and 6 of our events went away. Those 6 events were probably 35% of our revenue for the year. And instead of panicking, and I mean, there was a moment of panic, of course, but, instead of really doing that for too long, by May, we were reinvesting in ourselves. We have a 2-wall cyclorama green screen video production studio in our office. And we built right in the room behind it, a full broadcast suite. And we really banked on, well, these people still need to get their message out. And at first we scared some folks away because I think we were a little too aggressive with that. It's like, your business isn't stopping. What are you going to do about it? Instead of being like, well, we've invested in all of this equipment. We think you could virtually reach out to some of these people. You do it already in Zoom and WebEx and what have you. Like, why not do that? So that was a big innovation point in the last 4 or 5 years. And it's just allowed us, we were always trying to sell streaming to customers at events because they could reach a larger audience and no one ever wanted to pay for it. They're like, we don't have budget for that. Let's add, 6 more bottles of wine to the celebration that night. So yeah, that was a big point for us, I would say, in terms of pushing the envelope. And employees were like, well, what are you doing? You're spending $100,000 to build out this broadcast studio. I'm like, well, let's see if we can put all our eggs in this basket right now and see what the other side looks like.
I like it. How did you decide on the sweet spot about the number of clients you want to maintain? And do your clients know, like, hey, I'm only going to manage this number and you got to treat us well, or we're going to kick you to the street? Do you have a waiting list? How does that work?
Not necessarily a waiting list, but there are a lot of no's throughout the year. That's for sure. But to answer your question, yes, they know that we keep a short list, and that's attractive to some folks we've found over the years. Because we are a small team, I think it's also a selling point because people become comforted by the fact of like, well, these guys aren't trying to bring in 100 clients at a time, right? Yeah. But the other thing is like, and I'm sure we're a dime a dozen in a lot of the things that I'm saying, right? There's 1,000 agencies of our size out there that do what we do in a lot of ways. But the things that we always talk about and sort of pride ourselves on is that we're really consistent, super consistent. It's rare that the bar goes up, or like we're going to always try to exceed. But like, it's rare that the quality dips one way or the other. The other thing is, we're not afraid to ask the tough questions. So, that takes a certain client as well, because some folks will come in here and, senior executives can have egos and expectations and don't have time for us to really push back on their idea. So we're going to do that. But really, all of that to say is that, we just want to become the best partner for you more than just your outside vendor that you're shopping all this work out to.
Yeah. How are you? There's a lot of people listening that they think they want bigger brands. Like, I worked with some of the biggest brands in the world. I thought I couldn't stand it just for us. But I know lots of agencies like yourself, you love working with the bigger brands, and you guys probably have a better process than we had to rein these entitled people through. But
A lot of deep breathing. Yeah.
exactly, you must meditate. I don't meditate. But how are you landing the biggest brands?
All word of mouth. I'm 46 now, so I've sort of hit my sweet spot in a lot of ways over the last 4
You're
or 5
old.
years.
You're as old.
I
as
know,
me.
right? But no, I mean that you know that network is everything, right? And at some point, like you're beating on that door for so long, and you're like, why not me? Why not me? You know. And I remember that moment where that why not me turned into it's us. You know, like we're doing this, and we just won a big book of business, and it's go time. You know, and I think for us, it's word of mouth for sure, but it's also just because we push back and we aren't afraid. Like we're not for everybody. If we are closing these deals with these big brands, it's probably someone we've already worked with before and they've jumped ship to another company. That happens all the time for us now. And I say, so they know what they're getting into ahead of time. It's rare. I think I've pitched maybe 3 or 4 times this year total. And all our new logos this year have been based on pre-existing relationships elsewhere.
Okay. Very cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Nick, is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the listeners listening in?
In between the lines of everything I said, it's, the network is everything. I mean, I've read a lot of books about it, listened to a lot of podcasts about that, but I truly believe it, and it doesn't take much to be an active listener and to just be there. And so, Ram Dass is a book that as someone that I go back to every once in a while. He always says, be here now. When you're there now in that moment, and you'll know it if you've built that network and you've built that trust. I would say, that's really the thing that's been the key takeaway for me all these years. And the thing that I always say to everybody that works here, you never know when you're building a relationship, your next relationship.
That's right. Awesome. Well, Nick, thanks so much for coming on the show. And thanks for listening to just our show. No, I'm just kidding. We were joking in the pre-show. He's like, oh, I listen to your show and other shows. I'm like, no, you can't listen to any other shows, but I'm just kidding with you on that. For all of you listening in, if you liked it, share it out with some other agency owner. You'll help them out. And I have a free advanced training out there for you. If you go to swankit.com or swank.it, you can get access to the advanced training for finding your perfect clients, converting and building a sales team so you're not doing everything, and some amazing stuff. Totally free. Just go to Swankit. And until next time, have a swank day.